Hello again. Consistency is definitely the most important factor in building and retaining fitness. In my experience, routine is fundamental to that consistency, to building that consistency. One of the things I found or sort of hit upon by almost by accident, even though I had thought about it, is using commuting to develop a consistent approach to my training. This really came home to me when I was living in Edinburgh. Running was my main sport then, and I sometimes used to travel to races with a chap called Robin Morris. One day on the way back from a race, he said, "Well, do you run?" He was asking me where I worked. I worked at a place called Heriot Watt University, which is a campus outside Edinburgh, and he asked me if I ran to work as training, and I said, "Well, no, I think it's probably quite a bit too far for me." And he said, "Well, it would seems like it's about the right sort of distance." But I still thought it was too far, and also there were lots of other reasons why it would be very difficult. So I was trying to work out how to get my clothes to work, how to get a shower. So lots of things didn't seem to be stacking up, and also there's this fact that it's still 7 miles away as a minimum, and it just seemed insurmountable and not really the best way to train, because I was probably running maybe 60-70 miles a week, which is like about 100 kilometres a week at that time. So stepping up to doing 14 miles, even on 2 or 3 days a week, seemed like a big step. Anyway, I suppose you know the answer to this, the next stage. Eventually I thought, well, I'll give it a go. So I thought, well, I'll just run out there. I probably got the bus out there and ran back or something like that, so I wasn't in my sweaty kit on the bus. And it turned out that it wasn't too bad. It took about 45 minutes, I think. And typically when I was doing it, eventually when I got to running there and back, commuting, it was about 45 to 50 minute run each way. So to get my clothes there, I got the bus once a week or once a fortnight, or I got friends to take stuff in for me. So actually that wasn't such a big deal at all. It was quite easy. When I had other stuff to carry, like if I had to take work home or something like that, I just carried a small rucksack, and that wasn't really a hassle. It's quite exciting actually, because I used to see some quite famous people running along the canal to Heriot Watt, like Alistair Hutton, who was then the Scottish marathon record holder. He wasn't the most chatty of characters, I don't think, so even when I said hello to him, he just sort of zoomed past in the opposite direction though. And then I had quite a good friend called John Sherburn, who was a very good runner. One morning I heard these footsteps behind me, and he actually caught me up and passed me, and I thought, oh blimey, that's no good, is it? I didn't like being overtaken at that time, and nowadays I think racing's for racing, and training's training, so it doesn't really bother me. I just stick to my own pace. Anyway, later on, it was quite a wet day, and I was running along this. I used to run alongside this canal towpath, and it had a lot of puddles. And then I heard behind me I had this splashing. It was like timed like footsteps. And so I speeded up, and then eventually I got to the point where I turned off. I didn't get overtaken by this person, and it turned out it was somebody on a bike. So I suppose it wouldn't have been any shame to get overtaken by that. Obviously running to and from work is like you're doing a lot of endurance type training, but you've got to then somehow work out how to incorporate your interval training sessions. If you want to do a long run at the weekend, that's extra mileage. So if you're doing like I was doing there, 14 and 15 miles a day, if you want to do a long run, 15 miles or 20 miles or something at the weekend, then obviously that's on top of your commuting miles. So you've got to sort of play it by ear a bit and be prepared to not actually necessarily run every day or ride every day if you're a cyclist. Subsequently, I've got very fit as a cyclist by commuting to and from work, and to some extent that's a lot easier because it's easier to carry stuff on a bike. You're not going to be rattling around on your back. And of course higher intensity work, interval training is important, and how do you incorporate that? Because that's not necessarily very easy. There might not be somewhere that you can do an interval session if you're transporting, if you're carrying your stuff to and from work, might have valuables with you. Well, as it turned out, you don't actually need to carry very much stuff. So sometimes you might need to have 2 sets of things and leave one set of it at work and one set at home. And for the interval training, I just did fartlek. I read a book by a chap called Ron Hill, who's recently died, unfortunately. He was a very successful marathon runner in the 60s. And he used to run to work and back, which I guess is something that sparked the idea. He's got a couple of autobiographical books. They're not the most interesting things to read, but you can learn a lot from them. He used to do what he called number stride fartlek, so he counted the number of strides he did, so he might do 70 strides, and then have an easy 50 strides, and then do another 70. I thought, well, I'm not very good at counting my strides, so I used lampposts. So I used to do 5 lampposts hard, 5 lampposts easy, and then 5 lampposts hard, 4 easy, 3 easy, 2 easy, 1 easy, and then start again, maybe at 6 lampposts. And that was my main interval session during the week, and then on a Saturday I'd do another one. It might be hill reps, or it might be a race or something like that. So a couple of other options to do the interval training, or even in general. It might be that you could cycle to work one day if you're a runner, and then go to a track session or do a hill session or something, a more formal, a group session if you wanted to do it that way. If you're a cyclist, you're not usually pushing the boundaries of your endurance when you're cycling to and from work, or hopefully not, which means that you could do, if it's a dark, if it's during the winter, you could actually incorporate a training session on an indoor trainer. And what I did was, in one place that I worked, I actually had an indoor trainer in their gym, and I just used to go in the corner of the gym and do my hard workout before I cycled home. And because that meant that I was fairly fresh, because if I tried to cycle home and then do a hard work, I might be a bit more tired and I wouldn't get the most out of the session. So it's a case of using the environment that you've got to create a routine that works for you, removing all the barriers, any barriers. So make sure your kit's ready to set off in the morning. You get out of bed, you just have to get on your bike or get your shoes on and get out the door. And that's what I've found to be an incredibly effective way of creating a routine, and routine then leads to consistency, and consistency leads to fitness. And by doing the same sort of thing every day, or the same sort of thing in the same days each week, as you'll know from watching my other videos, is a great way to learn what works and learn what doesn't work, and then make adjustments quickly till you're optimising these traits. It's a fantastic way to get fit, and let me know how you get on.